Thanks for the talk. I have two questions. So the first one is that as network systems evolve over time, so sometimes you may encounter some previously unknown nodes, right? So in this case, how do you deal with these out of vocabulary nodes? Do you need to retrain your GNN from scratch?
Yeah, we like to try to do it as inductively as possible so that we don't have to retrain. In all of the examples, we were using one-hot features for the nodes, but that's not really necessary, especially because we're using GraphSage and GCN as the temporal or topological encoder. Those are all inductive networks. So as long as we're not using one-hot encodings as the node features, then we don't need to retrain it every time. It just happened that we were using one-hot encodings this time, but theoretically, no, you wouldn't have to, depending on what you use as the input features.
And the second question is that, do you think it's important to differentiate the importance of information propagated from different nodes? Because in this paper, I assume that you consider the information propagated from different nodes the same, right?
I'm not, what do you mean propagated from different nodes? I'm sorry.
It's like when you use a graphic network to do the embeddings, you will basically propagate information, right, across the nodes. So in that case, do you differentiate the importance of information propagated from different neighbors?
Oh, I see. Yeah, so that's kind of why we're doing the edge weights. So if two nodes are talking to each other a lot, they're going to have a heavier weight. So their information is going to get propagated more, I guess you would say. The weights are going to want to change the when the two node features get aggregated together. Nodes that have higher weighted edges are going to have more of an effect on the output. So yes, but we don't. That's all kind of done by the graph neural network, which is a black box. All we can do is just weight the edges and hope that it works out that way.
Have you done any ablation study on this part?
Well, we did it without the recurrent neural network, and when you weren't trying to predict nodes into the future, that was surprisingly pretty good. But we did not do an ablation study with just a like a linear network that doesn't take into account relations. But on the benchmarks, Dyne RNN, I think it's called, is pretty much just a feed-forward neural network into a recurrent neural network, which is sort of an ablation study, except we didn't run it. But it gets very, very poor results on the small data sets. So my intuition is it wouldn't scale to the really big data sets for cyber data.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, hi, Isaiah. Just wondering if real quick you wanted to put a plug in for your laser presentation on Thursday.
Oh yeah, come to the laser presentation on Thursday. I'm going to be talking a lot more technical detail. I was trying to make it more the overview, but yes, for laser I'm going to come and talk about all the different cool statistical analysis stuff we did.
Yeah, that's definitely something nobody should miss.
Hi, thank you for the talk. I'm Joseph. So I have a question. What are the network features that you used, and did you face a problem of unbalanced data when you trained the model?
So the features that we used were the one-hot encoding for all of them, and then for the LANL dataset, we also appended if it's a user, a computer, or like a special computer, like the domain controller, we would append that as well to the one-hot features. And then your second question, imbalanced data. Yes, obviously with anomaly detection, the data is extremely imbalanced, which is why looking at false positive rates and precision is so important. It's probably the most important metric, which is why I'm really happy that Euler got the highest area under the curve, but it did not get good enough false positive rates to be usable in the real world. So yes, we did face that issue. But when training it, we gave it an even amount of true edges to look at and non-edges to mark as anomalous.
Yeah, maybe I can ask one. So in this work, I saw you have a very good performance in the data set. So have you thought about possible like evasion attacks or data attacks who know your system and are trying to intentionally bypass your detection?
Yeah, I wasn't even aware of the whole concept of federated learning until the presentations yesterday, and I was like, oh, Euler is very, very vulnerable to this because it's using that same federated learning thing. So I think that's interesting. There's not, we kind of assume that all of the worker computers are trusted and are on the same network, but yeah, that's a very good point. It would be susceptible to one of the federated learning attacks that we heard about at the ML session yesterday.
Sure, thanks. Maybe that's your NDSS paper next year.
Yeah.